center because we always have people coming in later. You know how UUs are with time. So let's make room for our people who come in right on time.
They're at freedom time.
Oh, freedom time, okay. Our first hymn is number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, a beloved community that changes lives. I'm Jackie Spearman, and I'm so glad you're here this morning. Wherever you are from and whomever you love, you are welcome. If this is your first time, or if you've not yet had a chance, please stop by our Welcome Center in the social hall after the service to allow us to get to know you a little better. You can sign up to receive information about services and programs being presented over the next several weeks. It's summertime, and for children's religious education, that means cool workshops the congregants are leading. For more information, please check your order of service. You can also talk to one of the hosts at the RE table in the social hall. After the service at 11:30 a.m., we offer religious education classes for adults. And once again, take a look at the order of service for more information. But I especially want to highlight our Inquirers class, which is great for people wanting to learn more about this faith community. It meets in room number 1, that's right off the social hall. Also at 11:30, join us in the sanctuary here for adult RE class called Turning Points in UU History, a 6-session exploration of turning points and controversies in our history that will delve into the complexities of these historical moments, how they shaped Unitarian Universalism, and how they relate to our faith today. This will take historical understanding to a deeper level, to the moments when we struggle to define who we are as a movement. The memorial service for Olivia Kappas, longtime member of our congregation, will be held here this afternoon at 2 p.m. In lieu of flowers, the family requests that donations be made in her memory to UUCA's Capital Fund. And now, please be sure, take this moment to put your cell phone in its most reverent position. Thank you. And once again, we're glad you're here on this beautiful morning.
Listen to these words from Frida Kahlo. I used to think I was the strangest person in the world, but then I thought there are so many people in the world, there must be someone just like me who feels bizarre and flawed in the same way that I do. I would imagine her and imagine she must be out there somewhere thinking of me too. Well, I hope if you are out there, you read this and know that, yes, it is true. I am here, and I am just as strange as you. In this spirit, may we be gathered this morning.
Please say the chalice lighting words with me. May the light of this flame illuminate our tradition of seeking, invite all who yearn for acceptance, and ignite our passion for justice and peace.
Now, let's greet each other with a handshake or a hug.
Is it on? It wasn't on. I turned it on here. Ah, there she is. That's being sweat for you. Ooh.
Hello. Hi, guys. Doing okay? Yeah? Okay, cool. My name is Felicita, and this first song that I'm going to sing for you is a very popular song by this really famous band in Mexico. They're called Los Bukis. They were really popular in like the 80s and 90s. Very classic song. And yeah, they were from somewhere very close to Frida. So I hope you like it. Te vas, amor, si así lo quieres, ¿qué puedo yo hacer? Tu vanidad no te deja entender que en la pobreza se sabe querer. Quiero llorar y me destroza que pienses así, y más ahora que me quedes sin ti. Me duele lo que tú vas a sufrir. Pero recuerda, nadie es perfecto y tú lo verás. Y nada más, pero esto verás. Será tu cárcel y nunca saldrás. Vete olvidando de esto que dejas y que cambiarás por la aventura y tú ya verás. Será tu cárcel y nunca saldrás. Nunca saldrás. Quiero llorar y me destroza que pienses así, y más ahora que me quede sin ti. Me duele lo que tú vas a sufrir, pero recuerda, nadie es perfecto y tú lo verás. Más de 1000 cosas mejores tendrás, pero un cariño sincero jamás. Vete olvidando de esto que dejas y que cambiarás por la aventura y tú ya verás. Será tu cárcel y nunca saldrás. Nunca saldrás. Thank you.
That was quite beautiful. This reading is from Frida Kahlo, Face to Face by Judy Chicago. I knew almost nothing about the history of women artists or their long exclusion from the art procession, the prohibitions that prevented them from professional training, or the ongoing obstacles they faced. Though Frida Kahlo can be viewed as a symbol of the new freedom claimed by women artists and the historic changes that brought women's creative voices into the world, her story is also a cautionary one. It demonstrates the tendency to exceptionalize individual women artists in order to decontextualize their achievements. In doing so, their successes do not necessarily provide a pathway to others. Nonetheless, when all is said and done, it all comes down to art. In this case, the power and originality of Kahlo's paintings. She expanded the scope of art, making room for the private, the shameful, the hidden and ignored, demonstrating that these are all aspects of the human condition.
Give me strength through stress.
As is the practice here in this congregation, I invite you to put your hands on your heart. Feel the warm connection. Let love in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others, and that love will heal the world. And now the joys and sorrows of our beloved community. Gordon Love is having heart surgery on Monday, July 15th. Prayers and cards and emails are welcome. Let us hold Julie Weisberg and Howard Reese in our hearts. Julie's mother passed away on Sunday, July 7th. Julie and Howard welcome emails and cards. A very special colleague of mine and all of the women ministers who came after her, Judith Walker Riggs, died Monday in Atlanta. Judith Walker Riggs was in that second generation of prophetic sisters in our movement, and I am extraordinarily grateful to her. She was a special person who had been a UU parish minister in Kansas and personally ministered to Roger Eastley and Diane Loop. She will be missed by many. Keep Robin Stinson and Kevin James in your thoughts as they are having some difficult decisions regarding Robin's family. Let us offer our sincere condolences to Eva Mitchell. Eva's father, Jimmy Glover, passed away unexpectedly on July 6th. Cards and emails welcome. Wishing a speedy recovery to Barry Weiner's 90-year-old father, who is recovering from a broken pelvis and head injury after a fall. And once again, the memorial service for Olivia Kappas will be held here today at 2 o'clock in the sanctuary. At this time, I invite you to say out loud the names of people you are holding in your heart this morning. Let silence be our sanctuary now. We take in a big breath, and then we exhale. We gently surrender to something larger than ourselves. We enter into a wise silence.
What is wealth? Can it be measured in absolute dollars? Or is it the sensation of having enough and even more to share? Whether we are talking about money or love or happiness, when we share with others who need more, that is wealth. This Sunday's offering will go to the UUCA. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Hi again. Hello. You know, this is my first time here, and that was really special. Never done that before. I wish you would, wish you would, wish you would. But I think I'm good, think I'm good, think I'm good. And I wish you would, wish you would, wish you would. But I think I'm good, think I'm good, think I'm good. Hey, baby, what's your sign? Trying to get to know you, but we're running on time. If you want to hear it in another language, I can speak a little bit of Spanish. Te digo a ti, yo soy, ay por el mar, buscando quexalitos, ay por Tikal, buscando tus besitos también. Y si me animo, está bien. Mi necesidad quererte es como respirar. Te quiero, te quiero, te quiero, pero querer sin saber me da miedo. And I wish you would, wish you would, wish you would. But I think I'm good, think I'm good, think I'm good. And I wish you would, wish you would, wish you would. But I think I'm good, think I'm good, think I'm good. Hey, baby, what's your sign? Trying to get to know you, but we're running on time. If I can break your heart, if I can't break mine, can't break your heart, so I can't break mine. Give me a reason, I'll love you long time. Give me a reason, I think that I'll stay. Show me some effort, I don't wanna play. I don't wanna fight to get to know ya. And if you wanna play, I'll show ya. I'm not the one to play in the game. I'm quick to run, won't see me again. Fighting the dust, I'm out here so fast. Crossing my heart before I get a catching a feeling, baby, oh no. Show me the door, cause I got to go. And I wish you would, wish you would, wish you would. But I think I'm good, think I'm good, think I'm good. And I wish you would, wish you would, wish you would. But I think I'm good, think I'm good, think I'm good. Oh no, no, oh no, no. You are unforgettable. Need to give you a Lord. Oh no. You are unforgettable. Need to get you alone. No. Oh, hey. Oh, no, no. Oh, no, no. And I wish you would, wish you would, wish you would. But I think I'm good, think I'm good, think I'm good. Thank you.
And now please join me in the dedication of the offering, which is found in your order of service. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
It's so good to see so many of you again. This is my first time here. Oh my gosh, and all the new people that don't even know who I am, that's even better. Yeah. So a little catch up about what I've been doing. Just a minute, would you like to hear?
Yes.
I didn't retire, you know I didn't retire, that was a rumor. Okay, so I did 6 years as a minister with the Unitarian Universalist Women's Federation, promoting equity and justice for women and girls. And I left that job in December, but it was a wonderful time. In the meantime, I also, this past year, have served as the consulting minister for the Auburn, Alabama congregation. I am finishing that today, and then going on vacation. And then next year, I will be going to be a part of a ministry team, and that's what's happening a lot now for congregations in interim. I can't tell you which congregation it is, but it's in Florida. So I'll be gone 10 days a month, and then my husband will make do, and then I'll come back and help him with the dogs. One of the other things I did, and that does lead into this sermon, is that I was granted a little grant by the Decatur Book Festival. I live in Decatur. A couple years ago to have a writer's studio space to just spend some time every week studying somebody that I cared a lot about, and I guess you just can't guess who that is. So I got to go there and do a lot of research and study, and out of that came this sermon. So this is my obsessive Frida sermon, and I'm just asking you to indulge me, and here we go. I've been thinking a lot about benedictions. So benedictions mean good final words. We do them at the end of every service, but we could think of ending our lives with a benediction. So this is what I've been thinking about, and I think that it doesn't surprise you, one of them, because I have spoken about it before. I would urge you all to talk to strangers whenever you can. I would urge you to welcome strangers into your world, and into this space, and embrace your own strangeness. So in this spirit, I'm going to talk a little bit about a person who really valued strangeness a lot, and that you heard that earlier, and that's Frida Kahlo. So for 20 years or so, and there are people in this room that were actually part of it, my husband and I were part of a long-standing small group here at UUCA. We assigned ourselves at one point the homework of creating what we called spiritual bucket lists, as in before we kick the bucket, things we must do and places we must go. So for my husband, it's Elvis Presley's Graceland, or was, Stevie Ray Vaughan's statue in Austin, Texas, and the Clarksdale, Mississippi Blues Museum. In my religious understanding, which means intentionally connecting with my most authentic and open self, at the very top of the list was making pilgrimages to old holy spots for me, the awe-inspiring natural places of my earliest years. Bryce Canyon in Utah, the best ever. The Grand Tetons and Death Valley. Paris, of course, a return to the artistic Montmartre of my wandering 20s, with its ghosts of Lautrec and Picasso and Gertrude Stein. And then the actual homes or historical sites of women and girls who had been admirable, even transformative for me. The Louisa May Alcott House in Concord, Massachusetts, the site of Margaret Fuller's tragic shipwreck off Fire Island, New York. Georgia O'Keeffe's Ghost Ranch in New Mexico. And yes, Frida Kahlo's Blue House, Casa Azul, in Mexico City. 2 early Unitarian feminist transcendentalists and 2 breakthrough women artists. All of them must visits. And you can think about your own. I've actually managed to cross quite a few of these pilgrimages off my must-do list, but it took until a couple of years ago for me to make it to Casa Azul. Too long a wait for a visit to what has become, in the words of one eco-cultural tourist guide, and there are those these days, a major pilgrimage destination with major crowds. It took 2 visits for me to really see Casa Azul in Coyoacan, Mexico, which is like a suburb. It's like the Decatur of Mexico City. Right, Richard? Yeah. Anyway, he's back there somewhere. So that's what I felt. I had to go with a regular tour. We had to go with a regular tour, and they had to show us all of the churches and cathedrals in Coyoacan, Mexico, and tell us a story about how the indigenous people were converted by the priests. And then we had to stop at all of those little stores they make you stop at to buy all the little crappy things they make you want to buy or not buy, and that took a while. And then we went on a touristy boat ride with a really lousy mariachi band, which didn't give me a whole lot of time left to go see what I wanted to see, and that was the house in which Frida Kahlo was born and died. I wanted to see her early family photos. I really wanted to see the photos of her lovers, male and female, her studio, her palette, her ceramics collection, her narrow invalid bed, and tried to picture Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo on that narrow Mexican bed. And what we didn't expect to see, but we did, was the urn of her ashes on the dresser. They're there. Frida is there still. But what I didn't get a chance to see before we rushed onto the bus again was what I really came to see, and that was her clothes, her crutches, and her corsets, some of which had butterflies painted on them, and some of which had hammers and sickles painted on them, which got their own blockbuster exhibition at the Brooklyn Museum just the past few months. Crowds inching along to see her native Mexican costumes. I am wearing one of them, including the fabric of one of hers. Actually, this is amazing. Thank you, Richard. Her lipsticks, magenta Revlon, the black eyebrow pencil that thickened her already thick brows, and again, her hand-painted plaster corsets. I had not been in Mexico City since I was around 16 years old, at a time when the house where Frida was born and died was not yet on the package tour list, and the Museo Frida Kahlo had only been open a few years. Even as an art history minor at a major university, I was completely unaware of her as an artist, let alone as an iconic figure she would become for me and so many thousands of women and men all over the world. Not completely surprising, given that while she was the first 20th century Mexican to have a painting permanently installed in the Louvre, she only had 3 solo exhibits in her entire lifetime, one in New York, one in Paris, and only one in Mexico shortly before her death. I not only was understandably oblivious to Frida in the more than 20 years when her life story and her artistic work were essentially buried in the United States, I was also clueless that she resurfaced in both the women's liberation and the Chicano civil rights movements of the 1970s, when I was surely engaged in the former, with the second wave white feminists seeing her as a model for enduring female suffering. That's how we saw Frida. Chicanas, on the other hand, seeing her in both her art and life a feminism, a broad, deep feminism that encompassed strength and resilience and social justice and political activism and national pride, or that she was claimed as one of their own by the lesbian and bisexual community in the 1980s. I did not know that Frida had been given her first posthumous exhibit in Whitechapel Gallery in London in 1982, nor did I know that Madonna, that's right, I am preaching Madonna, one of my contemporary pop culture idols of the 1980s, with her fingerless gloves, her denim, her lace, her anti-Puritanism, her irreligiousness, her sensuality, her physicality, her nonconformity, and yes, her glorious materialism, who upon finding Frida spent millions of dollars snapping up quite a few of the only 143 paintings that Frida completed, 55 of them self-portraits, who penned an essay published in Harper's Bazaar in which she revealed that Frida Kahlo's facial hair had helped her survive her self-described weirdness, her strangeness, her friendlessness, and specifically her early years in New York City, when instead of fame and fortune, this Detroit-born girl was greeted with armed robbery, rape, and apartment break-ins. Madonna wrote that when she was playing the victim and wondering if it was all worth it, she pulled herself together and looked at a postcard of Frida Kahlo taped to her wall, black mustached, and that consoled her. Why? Quote Madonna, because she was an artist who didn't care what people thought. She was daring. People gave her a hard time. Life gave her a hard time, and if she could do it, so could I. End quote Madonna. Now, Madonna may well have been the original Frida fangirl, fangirl, a term first coined in 1934, meaning a girl or a woman who is an extremely enthusiastic fan of someone or something. In no small way was a celebrity catalyst for the full tilt Frida mania of the 1990s. The adoration of this long-dead, communist, beat, punk, hippie, carefully self-created woman, in every sense a radical, spawned what one writer has described, and I love this, as a female Che Guevara cottage industry, or even a cult. Not for her art on canvas so much, but what people like to call Frida's art of being, which included Frida look-alike contests, complete with competitive unibrows. And I want to stop for a moment and tell you, she didn't have a unibrow. Repeat after me. Frida Kahlo did not have a unibrow. It was in her paintings, little butterflies. You can see all the pictures of her, which I have many. You can come to my house, I'll prove it. She didn't have a unibrow, but they have had unibrow contests, including at the High Museum when the exhibit was there. There is a Frida opera I am seeing in October here, by the way. There's plays, there's novels, there are cookbooks, and the nearly 500-page biography by art historian Hayden Herrera, and the English language movie Frida, based on it, which debuted at the Cannes Film Festival in 2002. How many have seen that? Oh, you must, it's wonderful. Which is where I finally came into the world of Frida and began a spiritual, intellectual, creative pilgrimage and an unapologetic feminist fandom of my own. By the way, developmental psychologists tell us that fandoms are valuable in terms of individuation. They help us establish our own identities and form community with others. So there. I went to see Frida, as I would have every major movie, especially those with Oscar nominations, because I had been a professional film and theater critic for like 25, 26 years, so I would go. This movie got 6 nominations, including Best Female Actor for Salma Hayek's portrayal of Frida. She did not win that year. She lost to Halle Berry in Mobster's Ball, the first black actress to win this award. I actually don't remember being very invested in whether Frida won or lost as a movie, but I do remember vividly the first scene with its glimpse of the recreated Casa Azul, the decaying Frida being lifted up in her 4-poster bed through the courtyard, declaring, "I am not yet a corpse," and would rebelliously attend her first and only solo gallery showing in Mexico, no matter what it took. Then there was her transformation from a uniformed, Frenchified schoolgirl to a norm-challenging, brilliantly colored reflection of indigenous native female culture and power. And then there was the flashback bus and trolley accident scene, gold glitter flying in slow motion, in a moment changing her life forever, from one following a polio bout at the age of 6 that had a chance of physical normalcy and robustness to one bound up in debility for the rest of her life. A life all the while shot through with pain, yet self-possessed, perhaps imperious and defiant. Now, undoubtedly, I was most disturbed and captivated by this event in Frida's young life that changed and challenged her forever, because as a college student, I too, on an ordinary day, had a freak encounter with a moving vehicle. In my case, a car driven by an older man who hit me while I was standing on a sidewalk waiting for a bus in Berkeley, California. Like her, I had a smashed pelvis, broken back disc, shattered leg, and internal injuries that left me lying flat in a bed in the student health service for more than a month, almost a school quarter, and lame for quite a few years afterwards. Like Frida, as a result, I had several miscarriages, but unlike her, I was eventually able to have my 3 children. Unlike Frida, I had many years of reprieve from pain and preoccupation, but like her, I am becoming impaired again. Upon its release, the movie's director, Julie Tramer, was criticized for a perceived lack of emphasis on Frida as an artist and a political activist. She responded that it was her narrative purpose instead to tell a story of joie de vivre, humor, and gaudiness, focused on Frida's sometimes loyal but never faithful rocky romance with fellow artist Diego Rivera that lasted over 30 years, to capture on the screen a real human being who was more than an abused victim. This, quote, ribbon wrapped around a bomb. I love that, ribbon wrapped around the bomb, unquote. Who loved colors, who loved flowers, who set a really good table, who most of all was a wonderfully complicated woman. The movie was where I began with Frida, but there would be so much more. In 2005, I first saw a Frida solo exhibit in London at the Tate Modern Museum, filling its austere gray walls with bejeweled Mexican colors, disturbing images, and livid blood. In Atlanta, an exhibit which focused on politics and passions in her painting. And in Detroit, where her unflinching work was hung for the first time alongside Diego Rivera's massive, taunting murals. And I was captivated and captured, not by his big old paintings, but by her tiny little jewels that were so much more revolutionary. So over the next years, we even made a stopover in New York on the way to a trip to Dublin in order to catch a train up to the Bronx to see the Botanical Gardens installation of her famous Casa Azul domestic garden, faithfully replanted. Landing in Newark, finding a way to get up to the Bronx, seeing the exhibit, and coming back and getting on the plane to Dublin. Is that stupid? This is even really stupider, there was the weekend flight to Boston to see the first painting Frida ever sold, Dos Mujeres, and you saw that earlier at the Fine Arts Museum there. Went to Boston, saw the painting. A friend of mine who went with me said, well, don't you want to see the rest of this wonderful museum? I said, no, I'm good. And then the Fandom, fangirl track, which ironically got its start after I found a Oaxacan redwood Frida shrine in a World Art store in my hometown of Decatur, Georgia. A bejeweled figure with a glittery purple headdress and bright red lipstick, surrounded by cloth roses and beads. This was at a time when UU ministers were pretty much expected to have personal altars in our offices. Laughing Buddhas, shells, feathers, East Indian candles, and of course, a flaming chalice. Mine, one of those given to our coming-of-age youth. The moment I placed that eye-popping Frida shrine next to my Israeli menorah, I was hooked on adding other finds. Jewelry boxes, black and white postcards of her and Diego, a compact, sticky notes, a paper doll set. Our home has become an extension of this whimsical Frida reverence, with a portrait of her found on the streets of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, one commissioned by a female artist from Houston, a colored pencil likeness bought for $10 from a 10-year-old girl, refrigerator magnets lined up frowning on the door. I have been given 22 Frida refrigerator magnets. Please do not give me any more. And stickers, and coloring books, and so much more. My body too. Okay, I'm not quite sure how to do this, but can you see? Richard was out of town for 3 days once. Too many pierced earrings now to count. High-end necklaces from national juried craft shows. Some of it I purchased, much of it gifted from my family and friends in the flesh. And then dozens on Facebook, some of whom sent me Frida socks. They have sent me links to rare silent home movie footage, Frida memes, Frida animation. A couple of weeks ago, 36 shared posts of that only recording of Frida's voice. Did you read about it in the New York Times? It turned out it was not Frida. I am so devastated. And then last week, I promised to tell the story. I found out that Vans sneaker company had put out a limited edition of Frida shoes. 2 of them had Frida on them, and one of her colored paint, her still lifes. I got on the phone, I got on the internet, found a pair in Soho, New York, size 6.5, the shoes I wanted. I texted our son Ben, who works on Wall Street, not far away. I said, Ben, can you just get can you get over there and buy it for me? And he said, no, I'm too busy today. So, this is the reason I like Facebook. A friend of mine on Facebook was in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and saw the shoes I wanted in the window of a boutique. I went on the website. They had my size 1 left over. They arrived yesterday, and no, I did not wear them today. But I have yet to get branded Frida leggings or an umbrella or a coffee mug asking what would Frida do. Completing myself in part by consuming her. This is important. Completing myself in part by consuming her. A Catholic friend of mine is convinced that we all need saints and that I am canonizing Frida for myself as an object of veneration, which is the opposite of religious feminism for me, wherein each one of us embodies the divine, seeing it and owning it in each other as connected kindred spirits. Not aspirational relationships, but relational relationships. Frida as a kindred spirit. That is what Frida has become for me across the years, and despite our obvious differences, she, a chain-smoking, hard-drinking, non-Western, physically handicapped, Stalinist, bisexual woman of color, kindred spirit, but in whom I have found and with whom I share the need to be part of not conventional Western women's culture, but a marginalized culture. Hers a mosaic, a mestizo and German Jewish, mine Polish and Ukraine Jewish, a kindred spirit with whom I have found and with whom I share a showy insistence on material self-expression through our costume clothing, our magenta lipsticks, our silver, our beads, with whom I have found and with whom I share an anti-minimalist love of collecting. So Marie Kondo, I don't want to hear about you today. What one curator has described for both Frida and Diego as a living cabinet of curiosities in their house. Thousands of objects, sculptures, folk art, devotional paintings, photographs, plants, birds, monkeys, dogs, and in Frida's jewelry case, both expensive pre-Columbian and dime store necklaces. She loved Woolworths and hundreds of dresses. I love it that when their friends traveled, Kahlo asked that they bring her back little things, bring me little things, the same little things, the genuine treasures and trinkets that overflowed my parents' home and might well devour our own. Kindred spirits, her lusty tendency to curse in several different languages, her plain, rough, straight talk, and yes, her courage, beyond her much vaunted endurance of constant pain, her courage to be unique, her courage to be different, her dogged and brave artistic creativity as she publicly shared and exposed her own self-exploration, what one writer has described, and I love it, as agonized poetry on canvas. And perhaps most of all, a kindred spirit with her flaws and her contradictions, when her persona, the myths both created by herself and others, unraveled, sometimes quite deliberately, that free spirit, that ferocious intellectual, the gender bender who nonetheless hitched her star, or at least in part, to a larger-than-life man for most of her adult life. The self-described naive and amateur artist who insisted modestly that I only paint for myself, I believe in art for art's sake, and I do not want to become famous. After a time fretted about her lack of recognition, especially in her own country, and set higher and higher price tags on her work, both for ego's sake and to offset the mounting debt generated by her voracious consumption of stuff. Art supplies, medical bills, and the bottles of cognac she downed every day. The long-suffering but persistent Frida, who's often been quoted as being convinced that at the end of the day, we can endure much more than we think, is the same Frida who pursued the risky and unnecessary surgeries that might have worsened her medical condition, who became addicted to, strung out on painkillers, who made several suicide attempts before her young death at 47, believed by many to have been a deliberate Demerol overdose, because she could no longer endure the body that had trapped and tortured her for so long. Inconsistent and flawed, labeled in her own lifetime, often by other women, as a self-indulgent hussy, obsessively married to a patriarchal pig, a painter of oil selfies, inconsequential, a judgment that continues in some quarters today, flawed and inconsistent and human. Frida is still very much alive and thriving in feminist culture, as one younger woman notes, by continuing to teach us to recognize our own importance, to follow our passion, and not to conform. The Fridas of today include pop culture icons, notably Beyoncé, who dresses up at Frida, floral headdress and big skirts every Halloween, and then sings about how women cannot be contained and stands up for transgendered people. The Fridas of today are muralists, they're graffiti artists, they're organizers of marches and founders of new inclusive gender justice movements. They are young activists who teach high school students about participatory democracy. They are the high school students, male and female and non-binary, who cry out every day for gun control. Frida Kahlo, described once by Diego Rivera as acid and tender, hard as steel, delicate and fine as a butterfly's wing, lovable as a beautiful smile, and profound and cruel as the bitterness of life itself. That same woman, who has been quoted endlessly as having said, "Viva la vida," live life, live your life, also wrote, these were her last found words, "I joyfully await the exit, and I hope that I never return." Contradictory to the end, strange to the end. May we all be so.
Our final hymn is number 1053, "How Could Anyone?" Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together.
Join me in the benediction. Words by Angie Sullins. We cannot control the impressions others have of our lives or our art, But we can follow and leave a legacy like a trail for kindred souls to follow. The breadcrumbs on that trail are authenticity, truth, and beauty. Scatter them like Frida did, so that others might find their way home.
I think so. Thanks for your work. So I don't know where our folk singer is.
They were here.
Yeah.
They just sound checks ago.
Okay, so y'all got that
she's
set up.
in the dress right there talking.
She is.
Yeah.
Then I should speak to her.